So here we are at the next stage. The manifold has been finished. Well, the inside of the manifold has been finished. There was a lot of fettling work to do on the inside of the manifold just to make everything nice and smooth. The other thing that I did while I had the manifold off was I port matched the cylinder head to the exhaust manifold. So on these, they do tend to suffer with a little bit of pressure build up in the manifolds. Certainly isn't going to do any harm to give a little bit of extra flow into the exhaust manifold, because obviously the manifold itself is made to match the exhaust manifold gasket, and the exhaust manifold gasket has got probably 2-3 millimeter step from the cylinder head. So literally what I've done is I've just machined using a cutting tool into the cylinder head, blocked up all the valves and everything else so that none of the swarf would get down inside, and I've port matched the head to the manifold. So I've taken off probably at about 2 millimeters from the port itself all the way around. That should give us a much cleaner flow from the cylinder out into the cylinder head itself and then on to the manifold, without it having to sort of drop down any big steps which would harm velocity of the gases coming out of the engine. The turbo itself, as you can see, is test fitted. The oil line is not connected yet, but the oil drain is connected. The oil drain is literally just good enough. So if that turbo was sitting maybe an inch lower, then that turbo oil drain would not be good enough. As you can see, it's not completely bolted up yet, mainly because all of this here needs to be tidied up and the manifold needs to come off again so that it can go down to a local engineering works where they will skim the face of the manifold where it bolts up to the head. The manifold flange itself is made out of mild steel, very thick mild steel. Mild steel doesn't tend to flex and bend as much when you weld it, but unfortunately, or fortunately, whichever way you want to look at it, these tubes are stainless, and stainless does like to bend and warp and twist quite a lot. So when the flange was actually welded to the pipes, it will have warped, it will have twisted. It's always worth spending that extra 30 quid to get that flange skimmed after all the welding's been done, because the last thing you want is to put all of this together, start it up, and then 2 days later get a nasty little exhaust blow. These tend to make a horrible screaming sound when the exhaust blows, and it's just really not very pleasant. So we'll belt and braces, make sure that that's flat, and then we don't have to take it back off again. The next stage of the build is the downpipe. As you can see, the downpipe is already bolted up, but the downpipe is not obviously then going into the standard downpipe, which is here. Standard downpipe at the moment is loose. What I'm planning on doing is probably making a cut here and then putting a right angle onto this, which is obviously going to take a bit of fabrication. That isn't the end of the world. I should imagine that would be fairly simple, if I'm honest. Oil feed, so this oil feed's got to go on. Looking for at the moment an oil cooler. If I can't get an oil cooler, then I'll source a shorter pipe than this and literally come straight into the oil feed on top of the turbo. Obviously not in a state to run it yet, but we are a couple of stages closer to the end than we were a week ago.